Hi, my name is Lorrie Fair Allen, and this is Bank After Ball.
This is Bank After Ball. This show was created to talk about athletes' journeys on and off the field in the world of business, entrepreneurialism, and finance. Let's see what's going on today. Today's guest is Lorrie Fair Allen, and let's jump into it. Hey, how are you?
You know, I'm hanging out. It's good.
So tell viewers a little bit more about yourself.
I mean, my name's Lorrie. I am a native Californian, although I lived all around the world. Fortunately, been able to travel through soccer. I was a member of the United States women's national team for about 10 years and played professionally for about 15. And yeah, I was a part of that epic 99 team. I was the youngest player on the 99 team. That won the World Cup when Brandy, scored the winning penalty and stripped off her shirt, the famous sports bra moment. Had an unbelievable career, and now I'm continuing my work both in soccer more as a volunteer and as part owner of Angel City Football Club. That's a new thing,
awesome.
But that's not what I do for work. I'm in the philanthropic space, and I work for a grant maker who grants into Southern Africa, Southern and Central Africa, working with community-based organizations that engage youth on HIV prevention. So,
that's amazing.
and I have 2 kids, 2 boys. They're crazy. Thank goodness for my partner, Jason. Yeah, and life's good. I'm back here in California, and I couldn't be happier.
So you have a couple medals, don't you?
I do. I'm sorry I didn't bring them today, but yeah, I do. Olympic medals. 1 silver from the Sydney Olympics in 2000 and a gold from Athens in 2004.
Oh, that silver seems like it bothers you a little bit.
The silver, I mean, if anybody watched it, you knew that it was on a handball that wasn't called, and that's how we lost. So I don't want to relive it though.
So how is the experience now as you went through it as a player, the league folded as you were a player, but now you're a minority owner in the new franchise, Angel City. How is that experience now?
I don't know how it's like with the other NWSL teams. I know that this, Angel City FC is pretty special. They're not even going to play a game. That team isn't going to be fielded until next year, and we've been doing so much stuff in the community. And that was the key in Philly. I feel like there's a lot of mirroring of the success and fan following that we had in Philadelphia. It was due to the fact that before the season even started, we were out in the community making connections, making sure no kid was left without like an autograph if they wanted one, and just spending time with not just the kids, but like the sponsors who were interested. And I think what they found was that there were some really strong female role models. And this team's pretty special in that, one, it's got an amazing group of owners, the majority of which are female. And there's like women in tech, women in gaming. You've got obviously the entertainment side of it, but then all of these former U.S. women's national team players, the Mia Hamms, the Julie Foudys, the 99ers, and then plus there's a whole bunch of Southern California women's soccer players that were former national team players, my twin sister included. And this is such a hotbed for soccer that it's a travesty that there wasn't a women's team here beforehand.
So you're doing all those things now, and so what do you do during your day job?
I consider myself so fortunate because when I was retiring, so I retired from the national team. I played from 95 to 2005, but then I was playing professionally after that, and played in France for Olympique Lyonnais, played at Chelsea, and at Chelsea, it was sort of the end of my career. That was like 2008, 2009.
Yep.
And like, I think one of the amazing things that I learned from both the leaders on the team, but also just from the ability to travel the world and see what it's like in other countries to be a female trying to play sports, is that you just see this incredible inequality and inequity. And so I learned really quickly that being born in the U.S. as a female with parents that supported women's sports, it's like winning a lottery ticket. And so I became pretty passionate about like providing opportunities for girls and young women access to sport. But overall, like the larger picture is this of inequality. And so you're talking about education and how, like all of these topics are like, there's a lot of people who are touched by this inequality in other countries. Here too, don't get me wrong, we have our faults, as we've noticed this past year and a half, has come to light all of the past of our inequalities and inequities, and so truly social justice. But where I thought I could do my best work and service is in overseas.
Well, that's awesome, because a lot of athletes kind of go through that phase when they finish playing of like trying to find themselves, because they identified as an athlete for so long, and you found something that you were passionate in and were able to go straight into that.
Totally, 100%. I also think it helps that, you know, when a door opens, I would just like walk through it and do it 100%. And if I didn't like it, I would turn around and go the other direction. So after playing, I remember after retiring from the national team, before I went to Chelsea, I was in ESPN ABC sideline interviewer for like a year on live television. It was the MLS Game of the Week. And although it was really exhilarating to learn a new skill, I didn't particularly like being in front of the camera.
Okay.
I feel like I was like, I'd rather be behind the camera. And also the industry was a little bit, I mean, I felt it was really, it was not my style. I'm used to like a team environment. I mean, when you play on a team, it's like we're all in this together. And as a TV crew, you're supposed to be in it together. But sometimes I found that it was like, people wanted to get somewhere else and they would be willing to step on other people to get there. And that's not my style. Like in the nonprofit space, I mean, so I work, so Charlize Theron has a foundation. It's called the Charlize Theron Africa Outreach Project. And I've worked there since 2011. And we do grant making to community-based organizations that are doing the work, engaging young people on HIV prevention in Southern and Central Africa. And these organizations, they're the ones doing the work. So my job is really to listen, figure out what they need, help them build their own organizational capacity, and then our job is really to support them in supporting the youth.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that a lot of times when people go to help people, they want to do things themselves and not actually listen to what's already, the foundation that's already there, and they're kind of like, hey, let's pivot, let's do our own thing, and I think that what you guys are doing is amazing. So let's jump in a little bit more into talking about how in the U.S. we position women's sports, because I find that part of the business fascinating because, one, I look at everyone on the same playing field, but can you talk to us more about, was the, so much of what we're going through right now with women's, you know, the lawsuits they had with the U.S. women's soccer team and things like that, was it like that back then, as far as like athletes not getting paid, equality, those type of issues as well?
The short answer is yes. So when I was playing with the national team, you got paid per game. And so if you even went to a training camp, you got chosen to play, you're on the roster, but you didn't step foot on the field, you wouldn't play.
So they didn't pay
So people, no, they did. They would pay you like a per diem. But,
okay.
But at the time, like we worked up to, like this is like baby steps. So it's kind of funny talking about it now. Like, what do you mean you didn't get paid? You went into training camp, and it's like, but they didn't have salaries for players. So we worked up to a point where there was a salary, and it was a minimum per month. And then if you played X amount of games, like you would also get the greater of the two of like per game basis or this minimum per month. So it would protect those players who were in training camp that never got called into a game. And the leaders of the team, these pioneers of women's soccer, who I had the honor of learning from and being inspired from, especially from like as you approach inequity and inequalities of equal pay, is like they really showed how you could band together as a group and say, no, we're not going to take this. And so they were fighting for people who they knew couldn't afford to play soccer, that were maybe on the fringes. They weren't they weren't the starters that were starting every game. They were the ones that were on the bubble, that were, trying to do different things and also had to have a job because they couldn't afford to be in national team camp. And that slowly, that got better. At the same time, you see this phenomenon of the '99 World Cup. It wasn't a phenomenon. Marla Messing, the head of the World Cup organizing committee, said, I want to hold this in big stadiums. And U.S. Soccer was like, oh, I don't think you can do it. And she said, no, I think we can. And we did. And you saw that summer of all these sold out stadiums. And that to me said, and this was proven since then, time and time again, that you can say that, oh, you can't, the women don't draw the crowds. Well, how much money did you put into marketing? How much money did you put into that? You know what I mean? It's like you can't say, it's not like you can say, oh, well, they don't draw the crowds, therefore you're not getting the marketing money for next time. That's not how it works. Like, you put enough into it, people are gonna come see it.
What was interesting, what you just said, was numbers just came out recently about college softball and compared to baseball. I think the women beat the men by, I want to say it was 60% in viewership compared to the highest viewed game of the College World Series compared to the softball World Series. And I thought that was incredible. And it just shows that, you have two very similar products. Obviously, people are supporting the women just as they're supporting the men, if not even more.
Yeah.
And I think that's people need to recognize that. So let's talk about, what piece of advice would you give someone else coming up right now, like the generation of athletes coming behind you?
You can't do it alone. It's okay to say you don't know and to ask for help. I think we have to redefine community a little bit. We're brought up in American society that tells you have to be self-sufficient and you have to be, you have to make enough money to hold your own self up and whatever. But in truth, the value of community is not just in your ability to be self-sufficient. So I would say don't forget about community and making sure that, and you don't even have to do it it's not a reciprocation thing, it's just an abundance, a vision of abundance of how can I expand my community and bring others in and learn.
In this next segment, we have bullish or bearish. Bullish implies it's going up, bearish implies it's going down. Let's see what they think. Women's wages in sports.
Oh, bullish. Look, the lens is on equity and trying to right wrongs, and I think that the younger generation is driving it on it. So,
the HIV epidemic in Africa.
Bearish. If we can solve the inequalities, and this is going back to women's wages, the link here, because this is something, HIV is completely preventable. So the thing that's stopping us is things like stigma and discrimination. When we end those things, we end the epidemic.
Big pharma.
I'm gonna say bullish. They can still release some of these patent waivers for the good of the global health and still make money. Especially if you look at what goes into research and development, they'll claim that, we aren't making money on this because we have to put so much into research and development. Well, where does that money come from? A lot of it comes from taxpayers. So it's not even their money.
All right. Well, thank you, Lorrie, for jumping on Bank After Ball.
Thanks for having me. It's really fun.
It's been awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys next Wednesday.